Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, let me introduce myself first. My name is Nabila and I'm a student of English department at Swadaya Gunung Jati or UGJ. I'm from class 1A with NPM 12010600007. I created this video to fulfill an introduction to literature course midterm project taught by my lecturer, Mrs. Utut Kurniati, SSMA. The task she gave me was to do a presentation about Middle English period. So let me start the presentation about Middle English period from 1150 to 1400. So after the Norman conquest of England in 1066, the written form of the Anglo-Saxon language became less common under the influence of the new aristocracy. French became the standard language of courts, parliament, and polite society. As the invaders integrated, their language and literature mingled with that of the natives, and the Norman dialects of the ruling classes became Anglo-Norman. From then until the 12th century, Anglo-Saxon underwent a gradual transition into a Middle English. Political power was no longer in English hands, so that the West Saxon literary language had no more influence than any other dialect, and Middle English literature was written in the many dialects that corresponded to the region, history, culture, and the background of individual writers. Next, poetry in Middle English period. In this period, religious literature continued to enjoy popularity and hagiographies were written, adapted, and translated. For example, the life of Saint Audrey Itmers in 1060 to 1166. At the end of the 12th century, Lyman in Brett adapted the Norman French of Wace to produce the first English language to work to present the legends of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. It was also the first historiography written in English since the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. Next, Middle English Bible translation, notably Wycliffe's Bible, helped to establish English as a literary language, and Wycliffe's Bible is the name now given to a group of Bible translations into Middle English that were made under the direction of or at the instigation of John Wycliffe. They appeared between about 1382 and 1395. These Bible translations were the chief inspiration and cause of the Lollard movement, a pre-Reformation movement that rejected many of the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church. And another literary genre, that of romances, appears in English from the 30th century with Kinghorn and Havelock the Dane, based on Anglo-Norman originals such as the Romance of Horn in 1170, but it was in the 4th century that major writers in English first appeared. These were William Langland, Geoffrey Chaucer, and the so-called Pearl Poet, whose most famous work is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Langland's Piers Plowman, written in 1360 to 1387, or Vigio Williami de Patro, narrative Plowman, or William's Vision of Piers Plowman, is a Middle English allegorical narrative poem written in unrhymed alliterative verse. Next, there is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. is a late 4th century Middle English alliterative romance. It is one of the better known Arthurian stories of an established type known as the beheading game, developing from Welsh, Irish, and English tradition. Sir Gawain highlights the importance of honor and chivalry. Preserved in the same manuscript with Sir Gawain were three other poems, now generally accepted as the work of the same author, including an intricate elegiac poem, Pearl. The English dialect of these poems from the Midlands is markedly different from that of the London-based Chaucer, and though influenced by friends in the scenes at court in Sir Gawain, there are in the poems also many dialect words, often of Scandinavian origin, that belong to northwest England. Next, Middle English lasted until the 1470s, when the Chancery Standard, a London-based form of English, became widespread and the printing press started to standardize the language. Chaucer is best known today for the Canterbury Tales. This is a collection of stories written in Middle English, or mostly in verse, although some are in prose, that are presented as part of a storytelling contest by a group of pilgrims as they travel together from Southwark to the shrine of St. Thomas Becket at Canterbury Cathedral. Chaucer is a significant figure in the development of the legitimacy of the vernacular Middle English at a time when the dominant literary languages in England were still French and Latin. Next, Geoffrey Chaucer. He is the father of English poetry. By making a conscious choice to write in English, he symbolizes the rebirth of English as a national language. His work also helped the London dialect of English become a standard. And we can read and understand Chaucer's English very well, and this shows how much the language had changed. Next, the Canterbury Tales. Chaucer's most famous work is the Canterbury Tales. It's about 1387. It is a long poem or a collection of stories in verse, and it's real verse, another novelty. The rhyme has taken place of Old English alliteration. The story is about a party of pilgrims, the poet among them traveling to Canterbury to visit the grave of Thomas à Becket. To pass the time, they agree to tell tales. In those tales, we get to know every class of the society of the time, from the nobility, members of the church, merchants, and craftsmen to peasants. Next, what is new and refreshing about Chaucer's work is that the characters are seen as real people, having both good and bad sides. Although he often makes ironic comments and sometimes may appear unsympathetic, the poet has, on the whole, a positive attitude towards the characters and a belief in the good in the world. And next, at this time, literature in England was being written in various languages, including Latin, Norman French, and English. The multilingual nature of the audience for literature in the 4th century is illustrated by example of John Gower in Freddie and Freddie to October 1408, a contemporary of William Langland and a personal friend of Chaucer. Gower is remembered primarily for three major works. It is the Mirior de l'Homme, Vox Clementis, and Confessio Amantis. Three long poems written in Anglo-Norman, Latin, and Middle English respectively, which are united by common moral and political themes. Next, there is a prose in Middle English. A major work from the 5th century is Le Morte d'Arthur by Sir Thomas Malory, which was printed by Caxton in 1485. This is a compilation of some French and English Arthurian romances and was among the earliest books printed in England. It was popular and influential in the later revival of interest in the Arthurian legends. Next, there is William Caxton, set up the first English printing press in 1476. He printed works of Chaucer and Malory and also books from other countries translated by himself into excellent English prose. Major influence on the spread learning and knowledge, a communications revolutions for history of English and its spelling. Caxton's decision reproduce the language of London and the South is crucial. This dialect was to become standard. Next, Sir Thomas Malory, Morte d'Arthur or Arthur's Death, 8 Tales of Arthur and his Knights in the middle 15th century. This work is important because 8 tales are structurally connected and reminiscent of a novel. Malory was no artist, but he was talented and wrote well. His characters are people of flesh and blood, often betraying the virtues they stand for. His language is close to the spoken language, but also poetic and full of feeling. This was the first attempt to organize a story into a single narrative. Next is significant religious works were also created in the 4th century, including those of Julian of Norwich in 1342 to 1416 and Richard Rolle. Julian's Revelations of Divine Love about 1393 and is believed to be the first published book written by a woman in the English language. Next, there is a drama in Middle English. It's medieval theater. In the Middle Age, drama in the vernacular languages of Europe may have emerged from enactment of the liturgy, and mystery plays were presented in the porches of cathedrals or by strolling players on feast days. Miracle and mystery plays, along with morality plays or interludes, and later evolved into more elaborate forms of drama, such as was seen on the Elizabethan stages. Another form of medieval theater was the mummers' plays, a form of early street theater associated with the Morris dance, and concentrating on the themes such as Saint George and the Dragon and Robin Hood. These were folk tales retelling old stories, and the actors traveled from town to town performing these for their audiences in return for money and hospitality. And mystery plays and miracle plays are among the earliest formally developed plays in medieval Europe. Medieval mystery plays focused on the representation of Bible stories in churches as tablets with accompanying antiphonal song. They developed from the 10th to the 16th century, reaching the height of their popularity in the 15th century before being rendered obsolete by the rise of professional theater. And this is in 19th century engraving of a performance from the Chester Mystery Play cycle. And next, there are 4 complete or nearly complete extant English biblical collections of plays from the late medieval period. The most complete is the York Cycle of 48 pagans. They were performed in the city of York from the middle of the 4th century until 1599. Besides the Middle English drama, there are 3 surviving lays in Cornish, known as the Ordinalia. Next, having grown out of the religiously based mystery plays of the Middle Ages, the morality play is a genre of medieval and early Tudor theatrical entertainment which represented a shift towards a more secular base for European theater. Morality plays are a type of allegory in which the protagonist is met by personification of various moral attributes who try to prompt him to choose a godly life over one of evil. The plays were most popular in Europe during the 5th and 16th centuries. Next is the summoning of Everyman or the summoning of Everyman in 1509 to 1519. Usually referred to simply as Everyman, is a late 15th century English morality play, like John Bunyan's allegory Pilgrim's Progress in 1678. Everyman examines the questions of Christian salvation through the use of allegorical characters. And I think that's all. Thank you for your attention and thank you for listening. May all those that I have shared be beneficial for all of us and have a great day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.